Hello student, today we'll be talking about politics in seemingly non-political domain. This is part 3, and in the last class we have discussed about the meaning of political theory. We have discussed about the scope of political theory, the importance of political theory, and now we'll be discussing about politics in seemingly non-political domain. That means involvement of politics in the field of like non-political dominion. See, politics, we have discussed that politics involves disagreement and reconciliation or settlement of those agreements, but in this angle, politics can even occur at a seemingly non-political dominant. That means even not in the case of that, like that of this, like that of the state and the government, and like that of the things that we have discussed about. Like something politics can occur even in the areas of like sports, like families, like even in the academic world or church, or even in the family itself. So how does politics involved in these things is, in the family, when there is a gender bias. See, many of us and many of our parents think that the girl's work is to do all the household chores, and the boys are to like work outside the house. I mean, like outside, and that is how something feel in like different between the gender. And with the evolution of a society, the thinking and the broader ways of thinking towards that conservative society also like has also grown up. And that is how, when there is a discrimination based on the gender bias, there exists a disagreement, there exists a conflict, there exists like restlessness. How is because the women are also fighting for their rights. With the growing society, the women also know their rights, and that is how they fight for their own rights. And when it fight for their own rights, it is not fighting within the family itself, but it is the issues are arising out of that family. And when it becomes the out of the family, it is becoming the issues of the state or of that particular society. And when that issues rise up to a particular society or the state, the government has to intervene. That means the politics has to intervene in order to resolve that dispute. So in this way, politics are also involved in the spheres of this field. And the sports, mainly we used to talk about like mainly in the sports there is a manipulation, or like there is involvement of politics and all of this. So like even in this sports, like there is an involvement of politics. Why? Is because like between the member eventually, like themselves eventually lead to serious disagreement, and there are lots of differences among the member itself. So when the member itself have a conflict or have that serious like disagreement among them, it become the main interest, and it needs the involvement of the politics. So that is why the government has to intervene, the politics has to intervene, so that disagreement or that conflict can be resolved in a good way. And the third is the film censoring award and censoring films. Like we know that in many of the like in the award shows, we used to say that, oh, that has been like the involvement of a politics. That award has been has been interfered by the politics, or like it has been manipulated by the other parties. So these things are involved in either directly or indirectly. And even in the censoring of films, like the court had to lay down the grounds on which a particular book or film could be held obscene. Like there are some films which are like which hurt the sentiments of the people, and when it hurt the sentiments of the people, it generally lead to the restless. I mean, like lead to the tension in the state, and when there is a tension in the state, eventually the state had to interfere in that area, and this is how the court lays down the following, lays down the ground on which a particular book or films have to be censored, or obscene, or had to be opposed, so in order to resolve the conflict. So this is how politics involved in seemingly non-political dominion. And see, the political conflict, political activity, it is a conflict and resolution of that conflict. But every every situation involving conflict is not a political activity. When a conflict arises between two children wanting the same toys, that is not a political activity. That is a conflict between the two people, but that should not go with the public affairs. It should be maintained in a separate way. And it is said that a political conflict is concerned with the public issues and not with the private issues. It requires a universal solution, and not an isolated or private one. So this is all about the politics involvement in a non-dominant politics. And resolving politics through arguments and through reasoning. See, since political science and political theory, which we have discussed about them resolving the conflict through reasoning, or political theory, examining and evaluating, carefully evaluating and examining through reasoning, and also and resolving the conflict. So this resolving political arguments through reasoning, it says that through this rationalist approach, it says that politics means resolving political arguments and political conflict through reasoning. As opposed to the non-rational act or impulse, rationalism is associated with reasoned government behavior. So this political conflict or argument which have been in disagreement, or which have been in conflict tension, this has been overall looked by the government through a proper and carefully evaluating and examining the root causes of that thing. So the things which comes up for resolving the political conflict is the political parties competing for power. In a democratic form of government, the political parties, not only one, but not only a single party, but multi-party, they come up for competition for powers, for political power. So when they come up for competing, the political power, they come up with various issues like poverty, like maintenance of roads, not only that, but even as housing, education, standard of living, and all of this. So when they came up with that issues, they may have, they may not differ, much on specific issues, but they will bring various mechanisms in order to solve that issues. So not only that, but even they may brought out some solution for resolving that, for resolving different kind of different problems. So in this way, political parties, when competing for political power, it resolve disagreement and conflict through reasoning. They come up and they go at thorough studies, and they go through a thorough evaluation, and after that they come up with the solution. In this way, it resolve the disputes. And election. See, this election is one of the most important in resolving the argument and conflicts. See, why does election is involved in this sphere is because during election, the representatives or the candidate, they have to translate their programs into public policy. So election, it is one of the most important mechanism for the people and even for the parties, because during this 1977 in when Indira Gandhi imposed emergency rule in India, and when India was almost to be called as a dictatorship country. In 1988, in 1975, it declared an emergency rule, like a president rule. So in 1977, when they held election, Congress lost the election. Why is it? Because people know and people were dissatisfied with the rule. And because of that, during election, the voters severely punish those who are anti-democratic. In this way, the result, like the arguments and this conflict are being resolved. And debates in the legislature, this is one of the most important because this gives an opportunity to the individuals or allowed the parties to express their views on a variety of issues. Like, when the GST bill was about to pass on the midnight of 30 June 2017, this GST bill was opposed by the opposition party. So the ruling government, in order to reach a sensible decision or like their destination or to pass this GST bill, they went through a thorough evaluation of this GST bill. And that is how, after doing a thorough study and after doing a thorough evaluation of these things, GST tax, that is goods and service tax, was passed. So this is how, like the debates in the legislature solved the disputes, solved the disagreement. And interest group. This interest group, like in India, we have 6 interest group. So this interest group, they are formed to, like to raise the demands of the people in the interest of oneself or in the interest of the community or the society. So when the interest group, like when the government are, like improperly functioning, or like when the government is not giving the adequate amount to the people wants, the interest group are there to fight for the wants and for the demands of the community or for oneself. So when this group function, like it provides a mechanism so that when it brought out that issues to the government can also bring some remedy for the solving of that problem. So in this way, the interest group plays a very important role in the political system, and without this interest group or pressure group, the the democratic ethos of a nation are lost. And the courts, how are they resolving the dispute and the conflict? Is the courts are the judiciary are the soul of the land, and they embodies the the fears, the hopes and the aspiration of the people. So when there is a dispute between the state and the individual, or the individual and the state, the courts are there to interpret the laws, and the court are there to interpret the decision rightly without the interference of the legislative and the executive. So this is how the court plays a very important role in resolving the disputes, and the court is also one of the important mechanism in resolving political arguments and conflicts in the country. So all of the above mentioned political institution and political process provided a framework within which political conflict may be reconciled and decision reached through reasoning or well-thought arguments. So this is all about the meaning of political, the politics in involving in non-political dominion, or resolving a political conflict or a disagreement in the country through a proper mechanism. So this is all about chapter 1, that is Introduction to Political Science, and we have already discussed about the meaning and scope of political science, the meaning and the scope of political theory, and the importance of political theory, and even the politics involving in the political in the non-political dominion, and even the mechanism for providing this political conflict. So this is the end of the first chapter, that is Introduction to Political Theory, and in the next class we'll be discussing a second chapter, that is Nation and State. So I urge all of you to read the textbook, so that when I explain, it will become very easy for you to go with the flow. Thank you. This is the end of the part 3.